Got it. Me too. All right. For the recording, welcome back. We are death awareness meditators. This is class 3 on November 12th, 2023. Happy Diwali, for those who know. So let's gather our minds here. As we usually do, please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Sorry, I'm so gravelly tonight. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They're gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. And how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it would be if we could also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they would go on to stop their distress forever. Let's grow that wish into a longing. And recalling karma and emptiness, grow that longing into an intention. And from that feeling of longing and intention, turn your mind back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community, through the merit that I do in sharing this practice and the rest. May I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community, through the merit that I do in sharing this practice and the rest. May we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community, through the merit that I do in sharing this practice and the rest. May all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every other. Here we go again. All right, so let's review. In our death awareness sequence, the first thing we do is recognize the problems of not meditating on death. Someone please give us like a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of what's meant by that. What problem do we have if we don't get familiar with our death awareness practice? Going once, going twice, I'll use my finger. Joanna.
Promise that we have is that the problems that we have is that we actually won't even recognize that we have kind of, all the petty things around us, that we are doing activities all the time that won't help us when we are dying. So kind of we waste our precious time here in this life with relationships that are not useful is a weird word for it, but we won't contribute in a way that we could with our potential.
Yeah, we just go on struggling against each other to get what we want, thinking that's how we get what we want, right? Life as usual. And the imagery is coming out of the forest, burdened down, hot and tired, going to the food and drink, having to struggle against people to get it. And then something like, bing, there's something wrong here. So the next step was meditating on the benefits of the right kind of death awareness practice. It's the bridge. So what are the benefits of training ourselves in our death awareness? Victor, you want to share?
Yeah, I think one of the benefit is you will like try to disconnect yourself with those friends which you think is not helping in terms of the our learning. And then you also will reduce certain desire for things. You'll start to throw away things and keep less things for yourself. And I think the petty things are just now one of the friends mentioned about that. You will try to not doing those petty things like people make you upset. You will like cutting your mind. All this you will reduce your tendency to get angry easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think.
So the imagery is throwing the stuff from your backpack over the bridge, but not until you've identified, this is important to life or not right now. My new direction that I'm wanting to go, right? So if you decide, no, this is still necessary, put it back in your backpack. Find something else. Right? No matter how small it seems. The benefits of a proper death meditation helps us reassess, reevaluate what's important. And it's like, what is it that you either own or believe in or have done that would weigh heavily on your mind if you find yourself on your deathbed tonight or tomorrow, wherever you are, right, in your cycle of your day? What would weigh heavy? I mean, it's really a useful question, even regardless of a Dharma practice. I have a diamond ring that was, my mom and dad's wedding ring, and it was given to him when he was a young man from his mother to use in that way. And so I don't know the history beyond that, but it's this diamond ring that's precious because the ring itself is so old and it's been in the family, and I have no kids to give it to. And so it's like, do I want it to just end up in the landfill? No. So somewhere in my papers, I have to say that particular ring, I want to go to this particular niece. Or if I were really ready to throw it over the moat, I would take that ring now and give it to the niece. And I'm this close to doing that. But I'm still attached to it, and I admit it. But there are other things that I have given away, right? That I used to be very attached to. This going over the bridge isn't something to take lightly, and it's not something to do fast, but to revisit from time to time. Yes, Victor.
Yeah, teacher, I have this question because while throwing the things, I think throwing physical things is much easier for us, but I have some confusing. Is like attachment. Does it refer to our relationship with our spouse? Our wife, our kids. To be a Dharma learner, ultimately, do you really need to throw away those relationships, or you should keep it as your practice?
Right. So if you're on the bridge and you've pulled out of your backpack your relationship with your wife, and you're thinking, oh, I don't think the Dharma really wants me to throw this wife over the moat. I'm not understanding that one. I will put her back. Right? Your kids. But what if, just suppose, when we're in a relationship that hadn't been good for a long time from both sides, and neither partner is brave enough to come up and say, this just isn't working out. And it, and it's hindering both of you, like worst case scenario, maybe it's very appropriate for the metaphorical throw it off the bridge to actually happen, right? To be brave enough to be the partner that says, let's amicably end this relationship so that we can both find something better. So this class is not saying give up everything and go live under a bridge, like under the moat. It's not saying that. And we'll see why when we get to end of tonight's class, and for sure by the next one, that we'll see that it's not really so much the things or the people or the relationships, it's really the attitude towards them. And so once we get all the way through the death awareness practice and you've worked with it for a while, when you go back and go over the bridge again, whoa, it's completely different experience. It's belief systems that we're throwing over. But when we're first learning, like don't really take the time to look at material things, actual relationships, actual priorities in life, and really assess, are these, fill in the blank, serving everybody in the highest way? And if the answer is, well, maybe, or maybe they could, don't throw it over. But if it's like, yeah, I really have outgrown this, and I just wasn't willing to admit it, it's time. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
The benefits of a death meditation. Then the next step is there's a wrong kind of death meditation and there's a right kind of death meditation. What is the wrong kind of death meditation talking about? Rashna, remember?
The one that's scary about when our elements collapse and we're going to be terrified anyway, and we'll be terrified anyway, so we don't need to actually practice that.
Right. Which doesn't necessarily be true, but we don't need to practice that. And that's represented by the gauntlet of scary guys, that because we know that's not the meditation we're learning to do, it's like right through them. And then what's the right kind of death meditation? The one we're going to do. But the point is that it leaves you light and unencumbered and stress-free, and right. So back to Victor's question, if my death meditation practice is leaving me anxious about whether I should throw this over the bridge or not, we're not doing the right kind of death awareness practice yet. Because when we've got it right, it's like, yeah, easy to throw this one and keep that one, because I know what I need to do now by the time we get to the end. All right, so the right kind of death meditation is that dancing through the meadow, a death meditation that leaves us free and unencumbered and joyful, and really knowing that what we're doing with our life is powerful and useful, even when we're just at the grocery store buying tomatoes. All right. Then we reach the door to the building. The first principle was what? Claire, what's that first principle?
Death is certain.
Yeah, yours is, but what about mine?
Everyone?
Yeah, say it like this. My death is certain. My death is certain. You're correct. The words are death is certain. But, you know, when my own mind hears me say, yeah, death is certain, it keeps it at arm's length. When my mind hears me say, my death is certain, it's like it catches me in the throat a little bit. And that's what we want, right? We want the, right? My death is certain. What are the three reasonings that we use to convince ourselves that that's true? We stepped into the room and immediately to our right was that vicious beast straining at the chain to get at us. What does that represent?
The Lord of Death is unstoppable.
Yeah, meaning when our karma for this life wears out, we're dead and nobody can do anything to help. And then hot on the heels of that, we look to the middle of the room and there's the hourglass with the sands flowing down through. And I don't know, that like my first inclination is to grab it and turn it over, right? Because my hourglass has got about this much in the top. But you can't do it, right? And so that second reasoning to come to a strong conclusion, my death is certain, is what?
I cannot add time.
Right. The sands of time are flowing faster and faster, it seems to me. Like the older I get, the quicker it is that Easter and Christmas, like they're going to touch pretty soon, it seems like. And then we look up from the hourglass and we're compelled through that hallway of teachings. Do you get that sense? It's like, no, I want to stop and think about it and review. And what did I learn from them? And it's just something is just pushing it, like Lama Sarani's schedule is just pushing us past the teachings, past the teachings, past the teachings. But you could just as well put images in that hallway of your own life. You know, it's like, I haven't even shown all my Malaysia pictures to my best friend yet. And here it's been 6 months, right? Since we were there almost. And it's like, just there's never enough time to do the things you want to do when you find them, to quote Jim Croce. But especially with the Dharma, never enough time. How do those three, Lord of Death is unstoppable, my sands of my life are moving and I can't add more, and I'm pushed somehow to never have enough time. How do those three convince you of my death is certain? It takes some work with it, right? You wouldn't necessarily have the deep aha of how those three prove the first principle until you've worked with them a little bit. And we think, well, why do I need to work with them? Because I know my death is certain. We need to work with them because we know my death is certain is up here. But if we don't have it in the back of our mind with our choices of what we do in life, then it's a stillborn, my death is certain awareness. And that's not enough to help us transform that experience from the wrong kind of death meditation to the right kind of death meditation. So I hope you will take a little time to really think those through and examine them. Like, if that beast gets free of the wall, what's going to happen? You know, and what's going to happen when the last little sand goes out? The beast gets free. And how is running through the corridor of teachings going to help if we don't really ever utilize them? All right, so don't answer those questions yet. We came to rest at the green door. The green door represents the second principle of death. Namchine Mepasampa, the time of my death is uncertain. My death is certain. The time of my death is uncertain. This is behind the green door. It also has 3 reasonings to use to help that convince ourselves of the truth of that statement, and then help us reveal the ramifications of it. So the time of my death is uncertain. The first rationale or reasoning is, in our world, lifespans are not fixed. It's stated like that. In our world, lifespans are not fixed. It's a mayungak for those who have done Course 13, a negative statement that implies something else. So it implies that there are realities where lifetimes are fixed. We've understood that desire realm, long life gods, live a certain period of time and everything's all beautiful and wonderful until the last week. And then rotten stuff starts to happen to them and they get all upset. There are other realms that we can't see because they're operating in physical wavelengths that humans can't perceive. But the beings who do exist in those wavelengths, see themselves and see a reality. And apparently in those realities, lifetimes are fixed. And I don't know if that'd be good or bad. Maybe they're fixed, I don't know, for 3 days. And you get into them and you have 3 days. And like, I don't know, what can you do in 3 days? Or maybe you have 1,000 years. But that as you're getting close to the 1,000 years, you can't do anything to change it. And I don't know, at what point in getting close to the 1,000 years do you start to panic? In our realm, lifespans are not fixed, which means we don't know when any one of us is going to die. Is that better or is that worse? Really not better or worse, but it's like we could use it to our advantage in one way. And in another way, we could use it to our disadvantage and just be terrified. Like, I don't know, today, maybe I'm going to get hit by a car today. So I'm going to call in sick because I don't think I can get to work safely. I'm so scared because I don't really know, right, how long my life's going to go. That's a wrong kind of death meditation. And this isn't about getting scared. It's about motivating our growing understanding of what karma and emptiness can help us understand. So this leads into the concept of life expectancy. And I think to help us cope with this idea that lifespans are not fixed, we have this idea of an average life expectancy, right? Or an average lifespan giving us a life expectancy. And statistically, I don't know, somehow they count up how old everybody was when they died and they average it all out. And it changes from year to year, decade to decade, of course. And I looked it up last time I taught this class in like spring. And in 2023, the average lifespan worldwide was 72.58 years, which was surprisingly high, I thought. And apparently in the year 2000, so a little less than 25 years ago, it was only 66. So we've made a little bit of progress, apparently, in how long humans live. Now that's an average of all countries. They say that average of developed countries, whatever that qualifies, is 76. So 4 more years. And women in developed countries, they get a little more time, like 81 or 82 over men. But these statistics, they're meaningless for the individual, aren't they? What they mean is half the women in developed countries die younger than 81, and half the women die older than 81. And how do we know which one we're going to be? So it's pretty useless to say, oh, I live in a culture where I'm going to at least live to 81 because the average lifespan is that, and I'm an average kind of person. It's like, really? Do we know that? You know, I thought my parents were pretty exceptional kind of people, and they died at 65. It's like, wait a minute, that's not fair. They should have at least died older than the average because they were really nice people. But we know the answer to that, don't we? Nice people die young. Selfish slobs die old. Selfish slobs die young. Nice people die old. There's something else going on. Do we know how much life we have in our karmic pocket? No, we don't. Not yet. Anyway. So the time of my death is uncertain. One way we prove that to ourselves is to think, well, they tell me the average lifespan is 76. And do I have this expectation that I'm going to live at least that long? Because that's the average. What's your expectation for how long you're going to live? Years ago, I went to a palmist, and she looked at my lifeline and she goes, oh, 93, you're going to live to be 93. And my grandmothers lived to 93, and some of my aunts lived to 93 or 4, so it's like, okay, I'll buy that. I've got till I'm 93. But I don't know, it leads to complacency, doesn't it? Because I don't know if that's true or not. Even if she's a great palmist, I don't know if I haven't used up karmic seeds, not made new ones. I don't know where I am in my karmic pocket. Even I've had a glimpse more recently that I'm not going to last that long. second principle, things that kill us are many, and things that keep us alive are few. So the time of my death are uncertain. Why? Because lifespans here are not fixed, and because the things that kill us are many, and the things that keep us alive are few. There's more stuff that can kill us than stuff that can keep us alive. So we're told from the scripture that what a human being needs for life is food, water, like clothing, shelter, and hope. And everything else is superfluous. And it's like, well, if that's all we need to survive, we should be sitting pretty. But the mechanisms for having access to those few things, food, water, shelter, clothing, hope, are fragile, like really fragile. They depend on so many other things. You know, if we don't grow our own food in the backyard, and the ability to transport the wheat to the factory that makes the bread, to the people that make the bread, to the grocery store that sells the bread, I'm not getting bread, no matter how much I want it. And I can't grow wheat in my backyard. I can't grow enough lentils to feed my husband and I lentil soup, you know, once a week for the rest of our lives. I depend on other people. I depend on those systems. And those systems depend on so many other things. And like, who's in control? Who's in charge here? When Geshe-la first taught this class, he said, you know, unless we live through the Depression, we don't really know what it is to not know where our next meal is coming from. Now, you know, I don't know your personal backgrounds. Maybe you have had that experience in your life. My parents did live through the Great Depression. They were like adolescents at that time. And my dad's family, you know, didn't struggle too much regardless. But my mom's family, man, they were, you know, tooth to nail, as they say. And they would take the chicken eggs out and try to sell them. And they would make cookies and try to sell them, right? The girls, she had 8 girls in her family, all ages. And they were out just trying to get an extra penny in order to help the family have food. It was a struggle. And, you know, that karma shifted. And I kind of felt that because my mom was always very frugal. But I personally never wanted, right? There was always enough. And then COVID came, right? And we still always had enough. But we saw how fragile the delivery system was. And it's still not back to what we call normal. We just need to ditch that idea of normal. You know, finally, it's somewhat back, but we see how fragile this is. This system that we rely on, really, for life. So what if that system makes it to where grocery stores don't have the food that we need? You know, how long are we going to last? Personally. So again, not to scare us, but to wake us up to our assumptions that we live by. That's the part of there's so few things that support life, and their delivery system is fragile. The first part of this statement was so many things can kill us. So for that consideration, they say, look, if our own body doesn't kill itself, not meaning, shoot itself, but meaning something go haywire. If that doesn't happen, some outside thing will be the trigger for the end of our karma for this life. Not meaning it made the end of life, but meaning as our seeds are coming to an end, part of that seed shifting reality is something that needs to trigger the end of the body. Technically, we don't need any trigger, right? We could just go along and drop dead. Many people do that. And we say, oh, they had this heart attack, or, they're heart fibrillated, and we have a reason. So, okay, yeah, that was the trigger. But the real thing that happened is their karmic seeds for life wore out. And they didn't know when it was going to happen, just like we don't know when it's going to happen for ourselves. They say any exterior thing, meaning material thing, could be the trigger for this end of life sequence. And again, it's like, unless we think about it carefully, we know it in the back of our minds, but it's like, come on, it hasn't happened so far. It's not likely to happen again. And this practice is about getting off that automatic pilot and really looking at our assumptions. So we have things, material things that we've worked hard to get. We value, we use them, we need them. And any one of them could be the agent of our demise, like our car, right? Car accident, like some fancy staircase that you went to a lot of trouble to get in your fancy home. You can fall down. Like the gourmet meal that you're eating, you can choke on, right? Anything that we rely upon for our pleasure can also be the trigger for the end of life. And this, Geshe-la says, this part of this practice, it's good if it leaves us feeling a little bit paranoid. The comforter on my bed, are you going to smother me tonight? I hope not. Not to not use it, but just to think. We're so complacent about this expectation that we're going to wake up the next morning exactly like we have every other morning. And again, it's not about getting scared, so I hope I can get past that. It's about being realistic, which I hope will make us a little more careful, right? If my wonderful car could be the agent of my being dead, I need to use it really, really carefully. I need to drive as carefully as I can to protect me, now to protect everybody else on the road, so my car can continue to protect me and whoever's in the car with me. Third reasoning in the time of my death is uncertain is these bodies. My body is so very fragile. My body is so very fragile. Technically, if you plug your nostrils on your mouth for 4 minutes, your body will die. It only takes 4 minutes. Isn't it a miracle that these 3 orifices have not clogged over for 4 minutes all at once in the however many years you've been alive? It's like, wow, I must have done something good. Because that's all it takes. Our food needs to be digestible. And so we're really quite limited in what we can eat to sustain our bodies, because, you know, one wrong digestibility factor and we can't digest it, or it's spoiled in some way and it poisons us, or the water is tainted or fouled and we get too sick to recover, or we get exposed, to the cold, too cold, or even too hot. We have a pretty narrow range between what this body will survive. Or, one radiation exposure hits one particular cell, damages that DNA, and zing, 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 and we've got a cancer that we don't know till it's too late. Right? All of those little things that we hear happen to people, that we go, yeah, I'm so sorry it happened to them. And it's like the unspoken end of that sentence is, but it's not going to happen to me. Right? I don't have cancer in my family, so I'm not going to get cancer. Like, how do I know that? Okay. A tiny little sliver, a sticker in your foot, draws the bacteria from the dirt and from your own skin in where it doesn't belong. And within 2 days, you can have blood poisoning. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it could happen to anybody because our human bodies are so fragile. We don't think so, right? We've been able to use and abuse them in our youth, but not because the body was so resilient, but because we had the karmic seeds to still carry on life. Not everybody has those karmic seeds to carry on that resilience. It's not in our physical bodies. So the second principle, the time of my death is uncertain. Why? Because here in Zombo-Ling, our lifespans are not fixed. And because there's so many things that can kill me and so few that keeps me alive. And third, because this body is so fragile, it can't do it on its own. It relies on other stuff. And it relies on a certain kind of balance of its 5 elements as well, that are constantly in this shifting balance. But if one overrides the others, the whole system goes kaput. And so it's a miracle that we're as healthy as we are, right? Even for those that maybe have chronic illness, we're still, if we're lucky enough to have a chronic illness that stays chronic, it means it hasn't killed us yet. Let's go on to the third principle. When I die, nothing but the Dharma can help me. When I die, nothing but the Dharma can help me. It has 3 reasonings. The first one is my people can't come with me when I die. My relatives and friends cannot help me when I die. If we're the relative and friend for someone who's dying, we gather around the bedside. Well, we try to help in various ways. Maybe we're still in the mindset of begging them not to go. Hopefully we're more sophisticated than that. But we're hoping, we're intending to help them in some way. And we can and we can't. But we have this expectation. If we didn't have the expectation, we'd hear of our loved one, on their deathbed, and we'd go, well, there's nothing I can do, so I'm not going to go. Right? That would be cold and not a seed we want to plant. But it is true that there's nothing we can really do for them. While they're still alive, yes, we can give them some comfort. But once they've died, we can't go with them. And from the dying me side, that expectation that I had, oh, my people around me, they're giving me that comfort. It's naturally flows into when I'm dead, they're still going to be able to give me some comfort. It's like deep, deep in there. Like we'll still be aware of them and we'll still be able to draw some comfort from having them close by. These teachings say, actually, very shortly after the true moment of death, when the mind separates from the body, which is not at the moment that the brain stops. It takes a little while after that. But when the mind actually completely stops ripening any seeds for this life, then your awareness of you is gone, which means your awareness of the people that were part of your life are also gone. And there's this short period of time where you're going into that awareness, that experience, where you still have some vague recollection of me and them, and we're finding them not there to help. And this sense of anger and abandonment comes up. It's not rational at all. And it's probably not even in those words, but it's a negative state of mind that arises because there's this failure of an expectation. And that negative state of mind influences, of course, where that mind stream is headed. It's not something that we want to ripen if there's something we can do to prevent it. Nothing but the Dharma can help. Our people can't help us. It's again because we're thinking that they can somehow. And then when we find that they can't, we feel like, well, after all I did for them, they're not helping me now, as if they're not by choice. We don't understand when we're in that frame of ripening. Reason number 2. None of our things, none of our belongings can help me. None of my belongings can help me. When I die, nothing but the Dharma can help. Why? Because my people can't help me. and my material things can't help me. Why? Because they can't come with me. They were all the things that brought me comfort, that said who I was, helped me with my identity. And I want them close to me. I want them to be taken care of. I care about them. And now they're not there. Right? Yes, Lisa.
Sorry, I have a question to the previous reasoning. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Because you say my family or my friends don't come with me, and then at the moment of death, I have this time frame where I just realize they are not there to help me, and then I feel frustrated. So, but how do I know that? I mean, I know you say the scriptures say that, but then it's a bit of belief that they are right. I mean, there is nobody who can, I cannot see that really happens now.
Right.
I'm just thinking
And
it is
dogs
reasoning.
can't see pens. And dogs can't see pens. It does not mean that someone hasn't seen that, experienced that, and now teaches us about that. So you're right, it's a certain level of faith that we accept those who are not meaning me, those that are teaching, but the lineage of teachings is coming down through those who have experienced it and do know. Because there are those who do take rebirth and remember the process.
So the point of when I am using this reasoning to internalize the third principle is also thinking that like there have been beings who have gone that way, and I mean,
if that would help, right? If that would help. Otherwise, you can do it by way of really thinking critically about seeds planted and seeds ripening. You can come to the conclusion that way as well.
okay, thank you, Lama.
So we can't take our stuff with us either. And yet there is still something in our minds that wants to. I mean, even historically, right? They bury people with their things, right? Everything that they need for their next life, for their journey. You know, even to the point of killing their pets to put them in there with them. But it's like, I don't know, does that mean that historically there is part of us that believes that we should be able to rely on our stuff? So I'm not giving you an answer to that, but we can recognize that like what motivates our pretty much every moment in an adult human life is to do what we need to do to get the stuff we think we need for ourselves and our families. You know, and we go to work to earn that paper. I mean, we don't see it in paper anymore, right? Somehow we earn some electronic transfer happen that then can do an electronic transfer later on that can end up with a package of something at our doorstep or a bag of groceries that we can take home. We hardly even pass money back and forth anymore. But the idea is we seem to have to go and do this for somebody in order to get that. And that's not really so far from the truth. We don't connect the dot. And we work so hard to get more of those things that we expect to bring us comfort and happiness and a healthy body and a nice long life, when in fact they can't do any of that from themselves, in themselves, the way that we think. And yet we act in ways to get those things, thinking that what we do to get them actually brings them to us. And within that belief is, okay, within the framework of my world's legal system, I can do this to get that and not this to get that. But, you know, maybe that's not an actual valid choice maker, right? We're still thinking that I can get what I want out by getting this thing. And then that thing doesn't go with us, doesn't help us. In fact, contributes to some level of upset when we expected to have it help us in some way and it didn't. All right, so really with both the people and the stuff, there's this factor that turns in our minds, apparently, which is something like, after all I did for you, you're not there when I need you. After all I did for the stuff, and the stuff's not there when I want it. That state of mind is a state of mind that's driven by ignorance and perpetuating ignorance, and it makes an unstable, an upset state of mind, a negative state of mind, which you don't want in the bardo, because that negative state of mind ends up being the trigger for the next life. Those things will go looking for new owners, Geshe-la always says. And we're left with the karmic seeds we made in trying to get them. The people, right, will be gone. And we're left with the karmic seeds that we did, bless you, on behalf of those people. Most of which were good, but dirty good karma, either flat out negative karma or dirty good karma. And the karma goes on with us, not the people, not the things. And that's the crux of it. So yes, Ali.
I have a practical question.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we study is a personal practice, and this particular practice is mostly in our mind. How I can teach Jam about this practice, about this awareness?
Let's finish it. Let's
Mhm.
finish it. So you have the whole picture. And then ask that question again, because it's a great one. Right?
Let's finish the
Let's
course.
get the whole practice under your belt, because that will give you insights into how to do that for him as he's growing up, right? To help him through that period of time when it's like, oh no, my mother's gonna die, right? Because he's gonna get there, right? In a couple of years. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me finish the last reason and then we'll take a break. I can't find it. Third reason for when I die, only the Dharma can help me is that we can't even take our own body with us when we die. And like we go, duh, but what they're pointing out here is how shocking it will be when you reach this experience of looking at this dead thing and realizing that you don't recognize it. Like, it was your body, but it's becoming very, very quickly unrecognizable. And with that, your memory of that you is just slipping between your non-existent fingers like a dream. A dream was so clear when you're in it, and you wake up and then it's like, it's just gone. The expectation that we'll have some memory of the body that carried us through that whole life, and we'll be able to rely upon that for some kind of stability as we go through death, is a mistaken state of mind. And when we get to the point where we realize that this thing, our body, that was like the foundation of our identity, is unrecognizable, no identity. And we have this, well, then who am I? What am I? Disorientation piece. We again can have this sense of resentment. After all I did to take care of it, it's betrayed me in that way. It's not in words. It's in some kind of shifting, fleeting, experiential ripening that is a negative state of mind. Like, the only way to describe it is to describe it in these ways of seeing your body and then not recognizing it, and then not really having any idea of who you are, what you are, and the disorientation that would come with that. So if we can't take our people, we can't take our things, and we don't even take our body me, what in the world goes on? Like, we know the punchline, right? Our mind stream goes on. And what's our mind stream? Actually, it's karma, our karmic seeds. Our karmic seeds go on. All the karmic seeds that we planted in this life and past ones on behalf of our people, in order to get those things, in order to keep those things, in order to avoid things we didn't want. You get the picture. In order to take care of these fragile little bodies, all of that karma goes on. But those we did it for, people, stuff, body, they're gone. Gone. Do you see the dilemma? So why does that prove to us nothing but the Dharma can help? Let's take a break there. I'll answer that, and then we'll do this all as a visualization. Okay, so I'm going to pause my recording. Right, and disorient. Okay. Rashna, I started the recording to the cloud, but when I came back to pause it, it didn't let me pause it. It was like it was off. So I don't know if we got the first half of this class or not.
Oh,
Now it's on,
oh,
but it didn't seem like it was on. I turned it on, but anyway.
let's see what happens.
See what
But
happens.
it was recording. I mean, in the bottom, the sign of
Yeah.
recording was on.
Yeah, it
So-
was recording, but not to the cloud.
You know what I can do? I have a solution. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're back to the cloud. Chris, you had a question.
I just want to know if you have any suggestions for people who have no visual imagination. I've got aphantasia or whatever you call it.
I do too.
Nothing.
Yeah, I do too.
I
Don't
try
worry
to
about it.
imagine something and it's like a polar bear in a snowstorm. I see 2 eyes and a nose, you know?
Well, you've got more than
nothing-
me. But you know, right? When you think something out,
Mhm.
there's a knowing
Yes,
it's happening.
yes.
You trust that knowing and use that knowing and run the video just like that, even though you're not seeing anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really frustrating in this tradition that's so visual
Yes.
and to have that. But it works. I'm telling you, it works anyway. Okay. All right. The third principle is when I die, nothing but the Dharma helps me. Because the Dharma, what's meant by the Dharma is the teachings on karma and emptiness, through which we come to understand the power of our behavior choices, what we think, say, and do towards others, is what creates the circumstances of our future. And that the Dharma goes on to say, even before you've seen that directly, here are some guidelines of behavior that you can work with. And you can eventually take vows to work with, such that doing those behaviors and avoiding their opposites will plant the seeds in our mind to create the future circumstances for this beautiful transformation that we're wanting to create for all beings' benefit. The Dharma means the teachings through which we make our choices in this more informed and wise way. So the Dharma doesn't mean the books. It doesn't mean the teachers. It doesn't mean, right, our own prayer practice. None of that can help us either at the moment. But what they do is they've taught us what seeds to make. And they've taught us that what goes on is those seeds. And so we use our remaining lifetime to burn off the negative ones and to plant with wisdom to the best of our ability, such that when we find ourselves at the end of this life's karma, we are so sure of our having planted, purified and planted, that there's no need to fear. We know we're not going to be upset because our people can't help. We know we're not going to be upset because our stuff can't help. We know we're going to go on without this body, this identity. We know all that. We planted the seeds carefully to be able to experience those same shifts, but in a very different way. When I die, nothing but the Dharma can help me, because it was the Dharma that taught me how to choose my behaviors so that I'm happy to die. And I'm actually happy to use my death to make more good seeds, to take all that suffering out of my world as I go. So the three principles: my death is certain. The time of my death is uncertain. And when I die, nothing but the Dharma helps me. Gives us a glimpse of where we're going in order to choose our behaviors differently enough to create this transformation in this experience requires this willingness to really look at our attitudes towards our own death, our beliefs about our own death. And this gives us this outline through which to really check that out, because we really wouldn't know how to do it otherwise. To come to this conclusion that what goes on is my karma and nothing but. And so what I want to use this life for is making great karma. That shifts our whole attitude about me and my life and what's it about. I want to make the highest karma. Right, we're going to go there. Okay, so let's do this meditation so far. Okay, we'll go through what we know already quickly, and then we'll spend a little more time on parts 2 and 3. Okay, so get wiggled enough that you can settle down in. Okay, get firm in your seat. Mind alertness rising. And bring your attention to your breath. With each out breath, your physical body relaxes. With each in breath, your mental body gets more alert, more eager. Recall that precious holy being before you, their love, their compassion, their wisdom. Recall that person you want to be able to help. Their distress, their suffering. And feel your wish to help them stop it. Recall your refuge in karma and emptiness. There's nothing we can't change. By way of changing karma, feel a little glimmer of determination. Live according to that. Make an offering to that precious being. Maybe offer them this intention, this determination. Confess to them some negativity. Offer this meditation as the antidote. And establish a power of restraint. Feeling the power of your regret informing your restraint. And then tell them of some goodness. Something you did or thought or said. See how happy they are with you. Ask them to continue to guide you and teach you. Ask them to stay close. Ask them to bless you. To learn this meditation, to gain insights that you'll use to help those in your world. And then find yourself standing at that big yellow door at the entry of the building. Look back and review what you must have done to get there. You see the forest with a sense of relief. Oh, I got out of the forest. See the beings of milling around the table. Think of how fortunate you were to be able to break out of that. So many are still stuck there. Your growing renunciation. Recall going over the bridge, reducing your burden. Things that were holding you back, holding you small, holding you limited. And recall whooshing past the gauntlet of scary guys, knowing you're learning a death meditation that will help you and all beings. You experience the pleasure of the meadow, the eagerness to learn this practice. You reach this place at the door, the golden door. You put your hand on the doorknob and the letters shine onto the door. My death is certain. You step in. Right there to the right in this darkish room is that snarling beast. You recall, when my time is up, my time is up. The Lord of Death is unstoppable. You turn and see the hourglass. Yikers. The moments of my life are pouring away. My death is certain. Being compelled through the corridor of teachings. There's never enough time. And I waste so much of it. My death is certain. You find yourself before a red door. Sorry, a green door. You put your hand on the doorknob of the green door and letters show up. The time of my death is uncertain. And as you push the door open, you find yourself standing at the apex of a triangular room. The wide part of the triangle is ahead of you. And there, right in front of you, is a garbage can. The lid is off. You look down inside the garbage can and you see a calendar. And across the calendar are big letters, 72.5, X'd out with a big red cross. This is meant to remind us that here in our world, lifespans are not fixed. That idea of an average lifespan is nothing we can rely upon. The time of my life is uncertain. I don't know if I'll be on the front half of that average or the back half of that average. I don't know. And as you look beyond the garbage can, you find yourself in your own living room or kitchen. Look through that room at all those things that are familiar to you. Recall how hard you had to work to get that. Maybe some of those things you feel really fond of. But now look at them with this sense. Any one of those things in my own living room can be the trigger. If my seeds for life were out, what one's gonna be? And sort of tiptoe yourself through that room. With a sense of, can I trust you, sofa? Can I trust you, fireplace? I don't really know. kitchen, you see a sandwich on a plate. And you think, surely that food will help sustain me. But then recognize, oh my gosh, not necessarily. And so you move on through the room towards the door at the back, a beautiful red door. And as you slowly move out, you get a thorn in your foot. When you reach down to pull it out, you see some blood has come out. The thorn went into your skin. And this is to remind us that our bodies are so fragile. That one little sliver could be the source of an infection. And that infection could go so fast, it's untreatable. And oh my gosh. The time of my life is, the time of my death is uncertain. Lifespans are not fixed here. So little keeps me alive. So many things could kill me. And in the end, this body's so fragile. It's a miracle I'm as old as I am. And we find ourselves at this red door. The third principle of a proper death awareness. As you put your hand on the doorknob, the letters appear. When I die, nothing but the Dharma can help me. Nothing but the Dharma will have helped me. And you push the door open. You enter into a large greenhouse-like room. It's longer than it is wide, all made of glass. Bright inside. As you first step in, you can see outside the glass on either side your people, your loved ones, closest friends. They seem to be having a good time together. And you wave to them, but nobody responds. You knock on the glass, and nobody looks up. You pound on the glass, either side trying to get their attention, and they're either ignoring you, or they don't care anymore, or they can't see you. And they're treating me like that after all I did for them. Our people can't help us. Move a little further in this greenhouse room. Now you see on either side all your material belongings. They're kind of disheveled. And there's strangers walking amongst them, picking them up, looking at them, leaving them or taking them. And your sense is, wait, that's my stuff. Wait, take care of that computer. And of course, we can't get to them. And again, our sense is, after all I did to get that stuff, somehow I had expected it would bring me some comfort. It's betrayed me. And we move on a little further. We see a dead body there ahead of us. And as we move closer, we recognize, oh my gosh, that's my body. But as you peer at the face, its features are not distinguishable. And quickly as you look, it's fading. Even the body itself is fading. The identity of the body is fading. Your own identity is fading away like a dream. But you are not disappearing. Seeds are still ripening. But so different. What goes on is karmic seeds ripening and planting, ripening and planting. There'll be one that ripens into your perception of your next life. Which is why when we die, nothing but the Dharma can help us, because it was our Dharma practice that taught us what seeds to plant, so that when we get to this place, we're so full of goodness that there's no need for concern about what seed will ripen. There'll have been none of that upset that we've just recognized could be our experience of death, but doesn't have to be. When I die, only my Dharma practice helps me. Because it taught me how to plant the seeds of goodness that will direct my next being. So we find ourselves in front of a pearlescent white door. And standing before that white door, turn around and look back. My body betrayed me. My stuff betrayed me. My people betrayed me. And now I know why that could have happened. When I die, nothing but my Dharma practice helps me. And I reach that by coming through the room of the realization that the time of my death is uncertain. My body's so fragile. So little keeps me alive, and so much could kill me. And I don't know when this lifespan will end. And I reached there. Having run through the corridor of there's never enough time, having passed by the hourglass of my life is slipping away moment by moment, having reached there by way of wiggling past that snarling beast of the Lord of Death, who's not yet gotten loose from the wall. And I entered that room of my death is certain, because I came to that conclusion that learning a proper death awareness practice could benefit myself and all beings. And so again, find yourself standing outside the building in front of the yellow door. Shift your perspective to that precious holy being who's there with you to help you. Recall that being you wanted to be able to help in that ultimate way. And recognize that what we are learning, we will use someday to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's a great, great goodness. So be happy with yourself. Think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall that precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them, and offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it, and they bless it, and they carry it with them right back into your heart. Feel them there, their love, their compassion, their wisdom, like a little glow or a little tingle. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales, share this goodness with that one person. Share it with everyone you love. Share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all receiving this deep aha about how their behavior towards others is their power to create their future. And may it be so. Okay. So any questions needing clarifications on this next piece? We added 2 rooms. Okay. Yes, Alain.
What is the meaning of each color of the doors?
Yeah, they have to do with the different Buddha families and the different directions and the different chakras, and it's all very intentionally set up but not yet explained.
Is that correct that each time that we open the door is I visualize like there is like an aura or something, like we open, like we go to a next level instead of going, like the rooms are in the same level, or when we open the door we can go to another level, or should I stay in one level of?
I think stay on one level until you have the whole practice. And as you're getting the insights into the practice, that's when you can go to other levels.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Anything else?
Are we gonna end up on the ground? Are we gonna go to upper levels if we're gonna end up on the ground?
Let Ale do her upper levels and you stay on the ground.
Okay.
That's just fine.
Ale had a nice question about how to teach children or how to also get other people this impression by not telling them directly, but helping them with this practice.
Yeah, let's get the whole piece before we go there. Okay. Anything else? Good. Okay. Please learn it, try it on for size. Just get little insights that you write down somewhere. Just explore, right? Don't expect to get deep ahas right away, although I hope that you do. But explore the ideas, please. Okay.
Thank you, Lama. Please
Yeah.
stay, we need you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, we have, what day are we? Where's Sunday? We have Thursday. And then we have Sunday. And then the next Thursday is Thanksgiving for Americans. So we're going to take that day off. But I do want to do class on the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. Sorry, Americans, if you don't mind cutting your long weekend a little short, because otherwise I'm going to run out of time for stuff. Okay, so not on Thanksgiving Day, the third Thursday, and I'll remind us next week. But then we will meet that Sunday. Okay. Okay. All right, my dears. Take care. Have a good week. I will see you Thursday, if not sooner.
Thank you for teaching. Please.
Now I'm stopping recording. Yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.